another storm could threaten the U.S. It's brewing out in the Atlantic as we speak. Hurricane Irma now churning far out in the Atlantic, and meteorologist Adam Klotz live in the Fox Extreme Weather Center. What do we need to know about this, Adam?
Hey there, Ed. Well, this is a big one. It continues to move this way, but obviously slowly as you're looking at a movement there at 14 miles an hour. Winds up to 120 miles an hour. We're beginning to see a couple of watches and warnings being placed in the Lesser Antilles. That should be arriving into those initial islands here tomorrow night. So we still have a little bit of time, but this is going to be a big system. Currently, that Category 3 will build up to a Category 4 storm and continues to grow. Take a look at these wind speeds. Currently 180 miles an hour as we slowly watch this thing track off toward the west at 14 miles an hour. Very defined eye wall there, looking like a very powerful storm, and it is. These are some of the highest wind totals we have seen in quite some time. This is all-time Atlantic Basin, number 5 on the list at 180 miles an hour. The strongest winds ever were just 190 miles an hour. That was Allen back in 1980. But we're getting up that direction, so a very, very strong storm.
Overnight images, Hurricane Irma, the most powerful Atlantic hurricane in recorded history, slamming that Caribbean island overnight. Brand new video showing the Category 5 storm with winds hitting over 200 miles an hour the moment it hit St.Maarten.
Hurricane Irma. It was Category 5 hurricane. Right now it's 6 a.m. so most of it has started going down, but as you can see, it's still pretty crazy. Normally right here we should be able to see the ocean. Water is going down, but tides are slowly coming in as well. As you can see, a lot of destruction going on, very high winds. A few hours earlier it was beyond belief. Vaya back, vaya back, vaya back. Don't somebody, Paris.
C'est un truc de ouf. C'est la meilleure détective de rester ici.
Hopefully these people got insurance on those. I think I hear my generator running.
Jesus. Ya, vamos, let's go. We have to hurry up, man. Everything's fucked up. Literal. Damn, look at that car. Esto no estaba aquí, loco. What the hell? At least I can see the door, so we have to.
No, pero mi casa se rompió el cristal.
¿Sí? ¿Quién lo dijo?
Lo sé porque la ventana está abierta. En other class happened.
Oh.
Broken in.
like that.
Yeah, but that's good. Like it opened. Gusto ko lang kasi rin.
Jesus Christ. Diablo, loco.
Hey, mi mga tawera.
It's pretty bad.
Todo el mundo está bueno, what the fuck? Shit. I don't want to see mine, honestly.
This was one of our first and best perspectives of the destruction. This is over the Dutch Caribbean territory of St.Maarten. It was taken from a search and rescue flight from another Dutch island, Curaçao. And the pilot at the controls is Canadian Wade Fleet. He flies for PAL Aerospace, a Newfoundland company that is under contract to the Dutch Caribbean Coast Guard. And Wade Fleet joins us now from Curaçao. So you're one of the first Canadians to see the damage from Hurricane Irma. Can you paint us a picture of what you saw?
It was shocking, actually. It's one of the pilots who just came back from one of the latest missions said the same thing. It was his first time up there. And he said the pictures and the video doesn't give you any possible impact of what you see. And I've said in a couple of times when people have asked me, you know, the island from afar looks fine. You know, sun is shining. You know, you're flying in, it's about 20 miles back. When you get closer, and when you start to see the impact, you start seeing, you know, the vegetation is now gone. You're going to see large buildings damaged. Some of them look more like a war would do than weather. And everything is strewn everywhere. There's boats up on the shore, well within where they should be of any kind of capacity. And of course, roads are barely passable if possible. So it was shocking to see. It was shocking to see because I know the island very well. I've flown in and out of there many times. So when you see it in this capacity, it almost looks foreign to you.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that because we're looking at some of your footage from your flight right now. So what was it like for you personally to observe such devastation from your vantage point?
I think it was rather emotional because you don't just think of the structures and the buildings. You think about the people down there, and I know people down there. So you think about them. You think about how they're doing. You think about their lives ahead, and you think about the primary industry in St.Maarten is tourism. That's gone for at least the foreseeable future. So mostly people.
Tell me a little bit more about, because you've been working with the Dutch military from the island of Curaçao to take supplies to St. Maarten. So what kind of stories have you been hearing about the people that have really felt the impact of this storm?
Well, it's it's funny when you have big events like this. It brings out the very best in people, and sometimes it brings out the worst. So there's stories, of course, that I think we've all heard about looting and robberies. But there's also stories of people helping each other and making sure that families that don't have a home anymore are taken in, that sort of stuff, to at least have a shelter. So that's most of it. And a lot of the people that we've extracted out of there that needed to get out because they were in peril. I've seen stuff like that in movies, I guess the best way to put it. But when you see it in real life, their emotions, and they were very upset and very grateful to be out. I think that's the biggest thing I'll take away from it.
The Dutch King, Willem Alexander, said the scenes of devastation he witnessed on St. Maarten were the worst he had ever seen. How do you think Dutch authorities have handled the aftermath so far?
I think they've done an exceptional job. This is not a storm like anybody's ever seen before. I mean, and of course, everybody's heard all the statistics about it. Very fast respond. Right now, everything is in full swing when it comes to the full effort of the Dutch government to assist these islands. So I think it's been very good considering. Now, obviously, anybody would hope that's dealing with these situations that on the ground for things to happen perhaps maybe quicker. Sometimes they can't. But I think that overall it's been really, really exceptional on behalf of the government of the Netherlands.
Drinking water finally arrives on the east coast of St. Maarten. People desperate for supplies try to get what they can. Since Hurricane Irma hit on Wednesday, there's been no fresh water, no power and no access to information. Help like this is a lifeline.
We are in a terrible situation, and as an elected official, I am trying to do the best of my ability to try to coordinate so that everything be done in a peaceful manner and a suitable manner so that everyone can get a little bit of water and so on, at least in first instance. At this time, all hands on deck.
French officials say they're doing their best to bring in aid as fast as possible, but some people here are losing patience.
They said for us to wait, but how long? There's no food, no water, no nothing. It's terrible here.
It doesn't help that most of the shops that survived Irma have been emptied by looters, leaving little left to buy for these people. This woman was looking frantically for milk to feed her newborn.
Apparently they're giving out water, but we haven't received any yet. We have no electricity, no radio, so we don't know anything. And since this morning, I've been running everywhere to find milk for my little girl.
Driving around the island, it's clear that Irma showed it no mercy, as it ripped through buildings, scattered debris and terrified the population. People have started to clean up, but for most, it's difficult to know where to start.
It's hard to imagine that just a few days ago, this place was busy with shoppers and tourists. And what really strikes you is the enormity of the task to rebuild St.Maarten.
It's a war zone. I've seen big disasters. Nothing at this level, nothing ever seen around ever. It's the huge cleanup and reconstruction, but that is going to take weeks, months and years.
St. Maarten's economy is built on tourism. Turquoise water and lush scenery made it a dream destination. To fully recover, it must lure back holidaymakers. But right now, the only cruise liner docking here is an evacuation ship. Natasha Butler, Al Jazeera, St. Maarten.
Hi.
So I'm here at the airport. Sunwing just left privately. We thought it was a Canadian government plane that was sent. Global Affairs texted. We get to the airport, line up with a lot of Canadians. I want to say there are more than 100 here right now. And we've been turned away from that Sunwing flight. The Sunwing flight left.
Why have you been rejected off the Sunwing flight?
They're only prioritizing families and mothers and children. I talked to Sunwing coordinators. They say they have no idea of other flights coming in. I've talked to Dutch officials who are all lined up here. They have no word on any of the Canadian government helping us. I talked to the U.S. Embassy. They have no word on the Canadian government helping us either. Honestly, there's no option for us. We're kind of stranded in the air, so I don't know what to do. And
Who sent the Sunwing Airlines? It wasn't through Canada, right?
it was not through Canada. They're saying it was privately organized. It wasn't Canadian government at all. You're Canadian, just I'm showing all the Canadians that are stranded right now. Hope that all of us here under freaking umbrellas and this working heat. Honestly, we don't know what else to do.
We've been here for an entire week already, and there's just nothing going on both sides. We don't know what's happening. Sunwing sent 1 or 2 flights, but it looks like they were private. So can any other plane company please donate? Any government too. Trudeau, are you listening? Anyone, please just donate just anything for us, like a flight to anywhere at all, that we can then connect back to Toronto if it can't be direct.
We've been in the place for like 6-7 days now. They're running out of food, water, and we're actually starting to give food away to other people too. So we're like literally the last ones. The U.S. people have gone first. They've taken animals second and Canadians last. People from Venezuela, a communist country. They don't have money over there. They don't have food over there. They got their people out. They have 1,000 people on this island, and they're getting their people out, but Canada can't. That's just wrong.
You know, there's apparently about 1,000 Canadians on this island, and there's no word. The Dutch, the French, the American, they have heard nothing from the Canadian government.
So there's no correspondence to Canada whatsoever, is what you're saying?
No, nothing. So it's amazing. Saw military troops from the Dominican come in. Like, if the Dominican can get out, why can't Canadians get out? We have so much resources. It just boggles my mind.
Do you have enough food for now?
I mean, like granola bars and a bottle of water, but honestly, it's really hot out. Don't know how long we'll survive. We have to get out of this airport area probably by tonight so that we don't get left behind or get robbed or killed.
Okay.
Everyone is losing their energy. They're only granola bars right now. But Canadian government, just do something.
All right, everybody. So that was an update from my sister, who's recently been rejected from the Sunwing flight that apparently was sent by Global Affairs. There is nothing being sent from Canada. I was just on the phone with Global Affairs. The lady on the phone just kept saying sorry, that they don't have any answers, that right now that there's a running list, a list that has not been sent to any officials on St.Maarten. My sister mentioned this list when she got to the front of the line, only to be rejected right on the tarmac. We're running out of options on who to contact. We have called the embassy, we have called Global Affairs, we've been on the news, and yet there still hasn't been anything sent. I do not know what else to say. I do not know what else to do. If there is anybody out there that has any contact with WestJet, with Air Canada, with anything, who might be able to send planes, private planes, get them cleared, I don't know.
Tonight, a local woman in a desperate situation. She's stranded in the Caribbean on St.Maarten. The New York Times tonight reporting that island is 95% destroyed. 7 Action News reporter Naya Harden spoke with her. Supplies are running thin, Naya?
That's right, Glenda, they really are. I mean, just think about it. Last week, she left from here, Northville, where she's from. She and her mother left to go start a new life at her new university in St.Maarten. But she knew the storm was coming, but she didn't know that she and her mother would be caught in the middle of it.
You can't, it's hard to explain. Everything's gone. The palm trees are all gone. There's cars on top of cars.
Preeti Mahal and her mother arrived in St.Maarten last week. She's a student at American University of the Caribbean. She was supposed to start school this week, but her father says Irma changed everything.
They have no medicine, no place to live, they have no food to eat, there's no clean water.
Preeti says her school is one of the only buildings left standing. At least 500 students have taken shelter. 800 locals are receiving care from medical students that have no supplies and are running off of a generator.
But everyone's pretty resilient. The locals have a very positive and optimistic attitude, so we're all hoping for the best for everyone right now.
Preeti and the other medical students have been told they'll be leaving in the next few days, headed to Chicago.
Well, as Hurricane Irma barrels towards Florida, we're hearing about the devastation it left behind in the Caribbean island of St.Maarten. The French Interior Minister confirmed 9 people have died, 112 are injured, and at least 7 missing. Today, we're also hearing about Canadians stranded on the island, including students and their families at the American University of the Caribbean School of Medicine. We spoke to the mother of one student who recounted some terrifying moments when the storm hit the school's dorm.
I'm not sure what time of the night they realized the building starts cracking. They went and sat in the washroom, hoping that this will pass. It started to escalate, and security that was assigned to that dorm started to yell, "There is an eye in here, you have to run or we won't survive." It's devastating because you don't hear anything, and you can see other parents through the chats looking and calling their kids' names that they totally cannot locate. It's hard because you're trying to reach to the government through the Global Affairs of Canada, through local MPs, through the parties that you didn't even vote for. You're asking for help from everyone around, and the message that we're getting, you have to understand there is a situation in the world is very difficult, and you have to stay calm.
The school confirmed to City News that there are about 60 Canadians among the group of 300 students and faculty members. They say everyone is safe and accounted for, and they're all holed up in the main building, which is built to withstand a Category 5 hurricane. Now, they say they do have food and water. The most recent update this afternoon is that the U.S. military is working to get citizens out, and they did take a group of about 50 to Chicago, but we're told that Canadians did not board that flight. Now, they're not the only ones asking for help. We spoke to the wife of a restaurant owner from Toronto who lost everything, his restaurant and his home. He's now stranded in St.Maarten and concerned for his safety.
He said, "No, I'm going to board everything up and then I'm coming home." And then he couldn't get a flight out. And so he got stuck there. And now, you know how it is there. It's a disaster. Everything is gone. I mean, everything's been blown out, and it's totally devastation. And, you know, he's got food and water, but, you know, a lot of people don't. So, you know, the looters are everywhere. Big Fish, if we rebuilt it, the island is so wiped out that, you know, you're not going to see a tourist for how long, you know. So we've lost everything. And, you know, now Hurricane Jose is going through, and I mean, really, you know, the island's already just devastated.
Now, Canadian Global Affairs is asking anyone who needs help getting out of the region to call the International Emergency Watch Center. They can call, collect, or email sos@international.gc.ca. They say they currently have 222 Canadians registered in the Caribbean and are working closely with commercial airlines and local airports, but some of those have been damaged. And another storm, Hurricane Jose, is also headed for the region and is making rescue efforts difficult.
Illinois are stepping up in a big way to help evacuate medical students on St. Maarten.
Irma hit the island as a Category 5 last week, decimating buildings and leaving hundreds of Americans stranded. Several arrived safely in Chicago last night. CBS 2's Lauren Victory is live at the hotel putting them up until further notice. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning, Marissa and Aaron. Some good news here. The Chicago Marriott Naperville welcomed 60 rooms full of weary students late last night, and they're expecting dozens, if not hundreds more, to arrive tonight. I spoke with one young doctor-to-be who evacuated with his wife and 4.5-month-old son.
Kind of been rationing food and whatnot in this foreign country that's been completely demolished and wiped out. And I remember getting off of the back of a truck with my bag in hand and looking up and just seeing a C-130 with the American flag on it, and I started tearing up because that was probably the most amazing feeling. I got goosebumps.
Here's video he took of that moment. Richard Hall and his family only arrived to the American University of the Caribbean School of Medicine a week and a half before Irma struck. Administrators confirmed the monster storm left 500 students, faculty, and staff on the decimated island. The U.S. military evacuated about half of them by 11 o'clock p.m. last night. The med students not only rode out the hurricane, but provided treatment to the injured after it passed. One second year is worried about his Canadian comrades left in St.Maarten.
It's hard seeing them there, and some of us are experiencing survivor's guilt because we were told to get out, but we didn't want to leave our friends.
Now, the American School of the Caribbean School of Medicine is actually the sister school to DeVry Institute here in Illinois. What we're told is that some of the students believe they'll continue their studies here in Downers Grove, but plans are still fluid at the moment. Reporting live in Naperville, I'm Lauren Victory, CBS 2 News. Marissa and Aaron.
All right, Lauren, thank you.
Well, it's been a frustrating week for those with loved ones stuck in hurricane-devastated parts of the Caribbean with dwindling resources, no electricity, and a growing concern of theft and looting. Now, among those is a group of about 60 Canadian students who are studying at the American University of the Caribbean School of Medicine. We spoke with the parents of one of those students who's stuck in St.Maarten.
It's totally chaos over there. My son just called me and he said that there are thousands of people in front of the airport. The airport is destroyed. It's controlled by Dutch military. Who's getting on the runway? We don't know. There's no towers, no air control. But people just trying to get off the island. It's chaos. People staying there day and night. It's very, very hard to get any answers over there. We are lucky that students have a group of people and they have school that actually can communicate some sort of information. I can't even imagine what travelers and tourists are going through when I don't even know if they have passports after all this. Things were flying everywhere.
We're supporting each other. The family of Daniel Bishev says Canadians have been watching with frustration as other countries have evacuated their citizens. Meanwhile, they've been disappointed by the slow response from the Canadian government. Now, today, Global Affairs confirmed that there are commercial flights going into the Caribbean, but they say in situations like these, they only send in military planes as a last resort.
We had commercial airplanes available to do the job, and as I pointed out to you, there have been challenges with being able to land at some of the airports. But as Minister Freeland said a moment ago, we are deploying a C-17, which is a very large transportation aircraft, which will be in the area tomorrow, as well as the HMCS St. John's, which is also in the area as well. So there is military deployment, but this is just to back up what is the primary method, which is to use commercial airlines to bring back Canadians.
Now, we spoke with WestJet today. They confirmed that they have sent a commercial flight into St.Maarten today. And Daniel's parents just got word a couple of hours ago that he is on a plane, but it's not a Canadian one. The school has arranged for a flight to get students out to Chicago, so they're on the road driving in the hopes of meeting him there. Janelle Amasa, City News.
Now, American University has a school site in Chicago. That's why they're sending the students there. They know that they're going to be doing their first semester there. They're told maybe their second semester, but they're not sure because of the airport damage. That thing is completely gone. And then you have to think about all of these people too. You know, these students are trying to do the best they can, but they are really hoping that people in our community step up. Guys?
Good evening. Well, so far here at Terminal 3, we've got some people out. It's certainly going to get a lot busier later on tonight. We have at least one of those flights coming in, a WestJet flight after 10 o'clock. That has been delayed. So if you are keeping track of the flights, you'll want to go online to WestJet's website, also to the Pearson International Airport website to keep track of when your loved ones will be here on home soil. Now, for those individuals who are worried about their loved ones in St.Maarten or in other parts of the Caribbean, they've been saying that they've gone to airports looking to be able to get assistance to come home, but they haven't been met with the same reception as their American counterparts. If anything, they've been left in a situation where they've been forced to hunker down in those ravaged zones, stay there, and simply hope for the best.
How are things? How kids are doing?
Kids are okay. Everyone's anxious. Everybody wants to just go home. We've been told 100,000 different things. So far, most of it's been false.
There's been minimal communication between Dennis Bishev and his 21-year-old son, Daniel. He and his wife have been bound to their phones and social media for the past week. He became trapped after Irma tore a path of destruction through the Caribbean, decimating St.Maarten.
God forbid something happens in Canada or for Canadian citizens outside. I feel that we as Canadians have very little help.
Daniel is a medical student at American University of the Caribbean. He and his peers have been hunkered down on campus, along the way putting their skills to use, helping those who've been injured.
We're trying to get passport information to board a charter to Chicago right now.
So, charter came?
Charter is, well, supposedly, it came.
Mila Bishev contacted WestJet to get her son on a flight home.
You need to give us his phone number or email address. I didn't know what to say. And then she continued saying that you need to understand that priority seats will be taken by WestJet travelers.
Meryl Moriarty and her husband were flown out of St.Maarten thanks to the kindness of strangers. They boarded a flight free of charge to Puerto Rico.
The government, from our perspective, did absolutely nothing. And there are still people there. There's still Canadians there. There's all kinds of other nationalities there.
From Puerto Rico, they'll go to Newark, and from there, home.
I have never wanted to kiss the floor of an airport before, but I just might. Might go kiss the floor of the Puerto Rican airport.
The federal government is under fire for not acting soon enough and leaving Canadians to fend for themselves. The Foreign Affairs Minister was asked today what's being done to step things up.
We do have a government plane, a C-17, which will be traveling to the region later this week to bring humanitarian supplies, and it will have capacity to evacuate any Canadians who are left.
As for the Bishevs, they learned late Monday afternoon Daniel, along with his peers, boarded a flight for Chicago with room for more than 150 people. Shalima Maharaj, Global News.
Now, as for what we were told by WestJet with respect to what the Bishevs were told about being able to actually get their son on a flight, we did get a response, and they say that they had two responsibilities. That was to get emergency supplies on the ground and repatriate all Canadians, not just WestJet guests. But they did have a structure in place, and that included getting those with urgent evacuation needs first, WestJet guests, Canadian students, and others who had a Canadian passport and were valid to be able to travel on a flight out. But of course, those lineups were very long. I did get a text message not too long ago from Dennis Bishev, who tells us that they are on the road already, trying to head down to Chicago. And the first thing that they want to do when they see their son, understandably, is give him a big hug.
Right there he is.
Oh, you were freaking out, of course, of course. Freaking out, of course, of course.
The only thing we've heard, Mom, I'm alive, I'm okay. But until you really see it, you will not believe it until the moment you hug your child.
Mila Bishev's 21-year-old son Daniel was one of hundreds of students stranded in St.Maarten, seeking refuge in their school in the aftermath of Irma.
There was a wet cadaver lab in it, so when temperatures started rising, smell started to get a little weird.
Some slept on floors wherever there was a spot free.
It looked like the whole island had been under an airstrike. I mean, buildings are just toppling, concrete buildings destroyed, rubble, debris everywhere, no power, no running water.
Bishev and his classmates contacted Global Affairs looking for reassurance.
They kept saying they were monitoring the situation, and I don't understand what they're monitoring. You know, the destruction is evident. There's nothing to monitor. You need to get your citizens out.
His school was able to charter a plane Monday, getting about 100 students and staff to safety in Chicago. On Tuesday, the government confirmed there are still Canadians on the ground in the affected regions, although it's unclear how many.
The majority of Canadians most affected have now come home.
A letter was given to returning passengers at Pearson early Tuesday morning by the Foreign Affairs Minister.
I said in the note, I think my words were that I was very sorry for their ordeal, which I am.
Pressed further on whether more could have been done.
We will be talking amongst ourselves, and also we're keen to hear from the people affected about their views on what we might do better if, God forbid, there is the next time.
Daniel Bishev and his family will stay in Chicago for now, while school officials try to figure out their next steps. Shalima Maharaj, Global News.